She's just not bright.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It is now 7 p.m. and we are live online.
All right, good evening, everyone. Let me just call the meeting to order. We'll do a pledge. Flag's behind us if you stand. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Let me do a roll call, just running from left to right. I see Councilmember Rhodes and Grant and Weatherby and Mansfield. Mayor Kyriakou is here. Online, do we have any council members? Yes or no?
No, Mayor.
Okay. All right. And then we've got the city administrator here and the city attorney, so thank you all. First one is public comments. As you know, we do 2 rounds of public comments. This is the first one. You get up to 3 minutes on any topic of your choosing, unless there's a public hearing. There is a public hearing. It's going to be adjourned, which means you can talk on any topic that you like. My only suggestion is that if others have said what you said, you might want to shorten it down. But otherwise, let's get started. Haywood Matthews, Fort Crescent. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Haywood Matthews, and I'm in Ward 4. I'm just back with the same thing again. It's 9D and Phillips. When I come out, there's a car, and I understand now that the car that be parked there, that near the curb, you have to be so many feet away from the curb, but they don't have no signs or nothing saying that. So it's still, you know, and then we still have the tree that's falling on Phillips, that's gonna fall onto Phillips. There's a house there that someone used to live in, no one's there anymore, so. And it's, you know, it's the parking, it's so scary to try to get out onto the main, you know, to come on to Phillips, off of Rendy.
Mr. Matthews, could you please use the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's, you can't get from Rendy, if you're coming down Rendy to get on to Phillips, you can't see. You have to drive out into the road because there's a car here parked right, you know, it should be, I understand someone told me it should be 15 feet away from the curve, and I didn't know that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I can't see, and I don't want to get hit. And there's a tree when you come out on to Phillips that's going to fall right onto the road. It has no bark or nothing on it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll pass it along. Liz Oliver.
Hi, my name is Liz Oliver. I live at 500 Main Street, and I'm here on behalf of the Beacon Bicycle Coalition to present our petition asking the city to create a bicycle master plan. I'm thrilled to report that it has the signatures of more than 1,000 Beacon residents. We are 1,000 strong, we ride bikes, and we vote. Here's why a bicycle master plan is important to us. Our city is growing fast. We have more housing, more cars, and more congestion. Better bicycle infrastructure would soften the impact of that growth and help everyone by giving residents and visitors a safe, realistic alternative to driving, reducing parking pressure, easing traffic flow across the city, calming our streets, and keeping our air cleaner. These 1,000 Beaconites agree that biking should be an easy, fun, safe, and affordable way to get around a city that is only 4 square miles. But right now, it isn't. Kids can't safely bike to school. Adults don't feel comfortable biking to the train or to Main Street. And a few painted lanes and sharrows don't make a real bike network. That's why we're asking for a bicycle master plan, a roadmap that looks at the whole city and lays out a thoughtful, strategic vision for where and how to make biking safer and more connected. This plan is about so much more than bike lanes. It prioritizes our needs, lays out tangible solutions that we can work towards, and includes things like safe intersections, traffic calming, better crossings, and making our streets work for everyone, cyclists, pedestrians, and drivers alike. The good news is that we won't be starting from scratch. In 2019, the city applied for a state grant for a bike and pedestrian plan. It didn't get funded, but much of that groundwork still exists. And now is the perfect time to try again, focusing specifically on a bicycle master plan, which is simpler in scope. Many grant programs would likely cover half of the cost for the plan if the city commits to matching funds. So our ask tonight is simple: commit to developing a bicycle master plan and set aside matching funds so the city can apply for grant opportunities to make it happen. Finally, we want to emphasize that the timing of this really matters. The city's comprehensive plan update is about to begin. If we have a bicycle master plan ready, it can directly shape that process, ensuring bike safety and connectivity become part of Beacon's long-term vision and not an afterthought. This is our opportunity to make Beacon safer, healthier, and more sustainable by allowing all residents, kids, families, commuters, and visitors to move around without depending on cars. Please hear our cry.
Thank you. Sandy
And
Stratton Gonzalez?
Mayor, we've been joined, Jeff Demansky, our councilman,
okay.
is on,
Jeff,
council
welcome.
member.
And then Paloma's excused, she was ill tonight.
Good evening. My name is Sandy Stratton Gonzalez. I live in the Beacon City School District. I live in the town of Fishkill, and I'm here on behalf of friends and colleagues who live in the city of Beacon. I am a member of Mothers Out Front Dutchess County, which is a county-wide climate action group, and Beacon Climate Action Now. And I'm here to urge you to hire a housing expert to help plan for affordable housing and stability in this wonderful city. I'll talk about my neighbors. So next door to me in Fishkill lived a family of 4, a young woman, her husband, and 2 children, one of whom is a child with disabilities, both children in Beacon City Schools. She was born and raised in Beacon. She had left the city of Beacon as a young adult because she could not afford to stay. They're a solidly working class family, both parents in, maybe the lower end of what we consider working class, but really hard workers, dedicated to their children. So first having to relocate out of Beacon and then into Fishkill, and then from the home that they were renting to a less desirable property, also in Fishkill, because it was paramount to keep their children in Beacon City Schools. So my question is, what makes a city, right? Obviously, maintaining economic diversity is really important, as is racial and ethnic diversity. All income, all families of all income levels have the right to be here. And I think it's important that the council be mindful that as growth continues and gentrification continues, of what the legacy is, right? Is this going to be a city only for people who buy $8 bars of soap? And I will quote another Beacon resident on the arrival of a new establishment: "I don't need another $8 bar of soap." Or is this going to be a place where people can really put down roots and raise their families? I don't think we need studies or deferrals. I think we need action now. Clearly, this has been an issue for decades. I'm not an expert, but I know it goes at least back to the 1960s and the urban renewal project that took place here. So I urge you to take this seriously, to plan forward, and to hire the expert that can actually do that work. And while I'm standing here, I would also
15 seconds.
like to support the Bicycle Coalition. I live on 9D. I'm as close to Main Street and 9D as many people who actually live in the city of Beacon. 9D's a disaster for a cyclist. So,
Your time has
Thank you
elapsed.
so much.
thank you.
Sergey Kreskov.
Good evening, Sergey Krasikov, Ward 3, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I'm here today to express my long-standing support for developing a thoughtful, community-driven pedestrian and bike master plan. In the past, I have shared a timeline of plans and surveys stating the need for the bike infrastructure dating back at least 20 years. And I want to stress the need for a joint bike pedestrian plan. But first, I want to acknowledge the focus of the current administration and the council on having others pay for our great ideas. It's indeed commendable and responsible. More specifically, I want to thank the administration for pursuing and receiving a $40,000 grant from the Dutchess County Transportation Council for the sidewalk pedestrian study. Great news. My assumption is that this pedestrian plan is not just an assessment of the current sidewalk conditions and prioritizing repair needs, but rather a study of how pedestrians use the city now and likely to use it in the near and medium future, identifying patterns, gaps, choke points, opportunities presented by things like fjord and rail trails. If that's what the pedestrian plan is, then it definitely should be combined with a bike master plan effort for a number of reasons. First, it is most likely that the use patterns will be similar, if not identical, between the two. Access to and transportation between our schools, parks, trails, social services, Main Street and shopping, commuter routes, etc. And if we only study and plan for one, and then build for one type of use, we're prone to discover painful limitations that will be much more expensive to correct after the construction. Case in point is a much discussed Blackburn-Fishkill Avenue. Correct me if I am wrong, but the cyclist use was not considered in the design and engineering of this intersection, and that intersection is the main bike route used for folks, for people living east of Fishkill Creek and in the southern parts of the city to access points north of Route 52, Memorial Park, middle and high schools, circle back to the main street, to Beacon-Newburgh Bridge, the list goes on. With a bike master plan in hand, that intersection would have been approached quite differently. Second, for either of these plans to be meaningful, community needs assessment and feedback is crucial. While not 100% overlap, of course, but a great deal of people who walk habitually also bike, and vice versa. There will likely be considerable savings in consultants, city planner, city engineer, and other staff time by combining community engagement components of the pedestrian and bike plans instead of doing them separately. The combined plan will probably cost much more
15 seconds.
than $40,000. So how do we pay? Volunteers have presented several planning grants in the past. Perhaps it's time to pursue them. Also, as a fallback, there is a $75,000
Your time is
allocated
elapsed.
for the City Council priority studies. Perhaps the council can decide to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Elise? Hi all. The clapping's great, but let's try just to listen to folks, okay? Elise LaRocca, come on up.
I'm Elise LaRocca, Ward 2. I was really excited to learn about the Governor's Affordable Housing Project by the train station. Imagine my shock when I discovered this affordable housing project is 90% not affordable. Unbelievably, an average one-bedroom rental in Beacon is on par with that of Boston and San Francisco. Look it up. Typically, when rents skyrocket, there's a drop in communities' diversity and creative population. We're already seeing this. Diversity is down and artists are leaving. Families who have lived here for generations can no longer afford to live in Beacon. The affordable housing problem didn't happen overnight. It's been here since COVID. And what has the city done in 5 years to combat this? Not much. That's why we need to hire a housing director with extensive experience in housing and zoning policy, tenant rights, and grants. A housing director who is so experienced they can do the job on day one. The Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development said this position would be great for Beacon and would not duplicate county services. This position will not be a cookie cutter housing position. It will be tailored toward Beacon's needs. That's what Kingston did, and Hudson, two different things, but they tailor-made it to their cities, and that's what's so successful with that. The city can't afford this. The city revenue is up, and revenues will be even higher next year when Mirbeau Spa opens, and there is a $75,000 available in the budget. Here are some other ideas. Amend the 2017 affordable housing law. Make it 30% affordable housing instead of 10. That would triple the amount of affordable housing with no cost to the city. Add a 1% transfer fee on real estate purchases paid by the buyer at closing. That would go into an affordable housing fund. Again, no cost to the city. There's a 5-year wait to get into the affordable housing artist buildings at West End Loft. We need build more affordable artist housing. If you continue to do nothing on the affordable housing, you will destroy our sense of community. And I just keep thinking of the spirit of Beacon Day, how wonderful that was. And I was at the Buddhist table.
15 seconds.
And they were so blown away about what kind of community they're about to have their center in. But you've got to do something. If you don't, Beacon will be a boring, non-diverse bedroom community.
Your time has elapsed.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Time
much.
for action. Please hire the housing director now.
Thank you. Sherry Griffin?
Good evening, members of City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. I'm here to discuss a critical issue facing our community, the urgent need to hire a dedicated housing director for our city. As we all know, Beacon and cities across our county and state are experiencing significant challenges in our housing affordability, homelessness, and equitable development. The lack of affordable housing options is impacting families, seniors, disabled individuals living solely on disability income, young professionals, and essential workers, making it harder for people to live, work, and thrive in our community. Without a clear vision and coordinated approach, these challenges will only grow more severe. A housing director would bring expertise, leadership, and strategic direction to our city's efforts to address these issues. This individual would oversee housing programs, facilitate partnerships with nonprofit organizations, developers, and ensure that we are maximizing state and federal funding opportunities. By having a dedicated leader focused solely on housing, we can streamline our response to the housing crisis, create comprehensive plans, and make measurable progress toward our goals. Furthermore, hiring a housing director demonstrates our city's commitment to prioritizing affordable and accessible housing for all residents. It sends a message that we are serious about creating solutions, not just talking about them. This role would also allow for greater transparency and accountability, ensuring that the needs of our diverse population are represented and addressed in our policies and projects. The investment in a housing director is an investment in Beacon's future. It's about building a city where everyone has a safe and stable place to call home. Let's take this opportunity step together and show our citizens that we are ready to lead on housing issues. I urge you to approve the hiring of a housing director and help us move forward with confidence and compassion. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much. Julie Winterbottom?
Good evening. My name is Julie Winterbottom. I live in Ward 1. 2 weeks ago, I spoke about why I would like the city to budget for a director of housing solutions in 2026. It has become impossible for working people, the children of longtime residents, seniors, and others to live here. Beacon is fast becoming a city for millionaires only. Tonight, I want to speak about my concern, based on the council's workshop meeting last week, that this idea is not getting the serious consideration it deserves, given the urgency of our housing crisis. For years, the city has lacked the capacity to address the complex challenge of creating more affordable housing. It requires expertise in many areas, from zoning to leveraging grants to creating new policies and revisiting old ones, like the inclusionary percentage. It requires guiding developers to county and state resources. It requires expertise in developing city-owned and other public properties, such as municipal parking lots for affordable housing. It requires tracking projects under development to make sure they fulfill affordability promises, not to mention enforcing good cause eviction, short-term rentals, and more. All of this takes time and knowledge. That's why we need a full-time, dedicated Housing Solutions Director. I ask you to be open-minded about this idea and pursue it seriously and swiftly. Talk to the housing directors in Kingston and Hudson, not because our city is just like theirs, or because our job description would match theirs. Talk to them to learn how someone with their expertise can benefit Beacon. Ask how they shaped their city's new zoning. Ask how they used the hotel tax to fund the position. While you're at it, talk to the community development coordinators in the County Department of Planning. Ask why they told me and others who want this position that it is, quote, much needed, especially in a city like Beacon, and is, quote, not duplicative of the county's work. Then be smart and creative about designing a position that fits Beacon's needs and our county's resources. The time to do this is now, before work begins on the comprehensive update, before more people are displaced. We don't need a task force to learn about residents' housing needs. We know what they are. Show Beacon residents that government does respond to their needs. Show the world that Beacon can be a leader in housing just as we are in climate action.
15 seconds.
Show how, for a relatively small price, we can reap the enormous dividend of making Beacon a city for all. And I just want to say I also support the citywide bike plan that was spoken about earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry, is it Reeder? Larry Reeder?
Hello, my name's
Oh.
Larry Reeder.
Okay.
Hello,
Yep.
Ward 4, Beacon resident, member of Beacon Climate Action Now. We surveyed Beaconites asking about their top issues impacting their quality of life, and the top issue was housing affordability. Many of our neighbors need help. I want the city to allocate funding for a full-time position to direct housing solutions. In Hudson, the housing coordinator has a long list of accomplishments. Some of them have been mentioned. Beacon has some different needs and some different opportunities. To leverage those opportunities requires a dedicated role. Central to Beacon's value is its community, including working families, service workers, seniors, artists, and others that sometimes struggle with the gap between increasing housing costs and income. Capitalism will not resolve this problem. Good governance needs to step in. Beacon needs a director of housing solutions to work exclusively on this challenge. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Bill Irwin?
Thank you. I just wanted to give a couple more details about the housing coordinators who have done work in Kingston and Hudson. In Hudson, the coordinator program helped 150 families with rental assistance, and during this 2-year period only had 2 evictions. The coordinator helped tenants and landlords negotiate payment plans that prevented evictions. And nobody likes an eviction, even a landlord. The housing coordinator in Hudson secured $2 million in grants and manages the grant herself. Housing coordinators are grant experts. In the largest city, Kingston, the coordinator has had similar accomplishments and manages $5 million in grants. Kingston currently has 300 affordable units under construction and a goal of 1,000 new units by 2029. And lastly, I'd just like to say, I think it's really important that this position be full-time, because the coordinator would be working with city government every day and coordinating a lot of different departments and citizens. And I think if it was taken over by a current city official, it might be shunted off to an ineffective committee or end up in the bottom drawer of that official. So thank you for considering this.
Thank you. Arthur Kamens.
Good evening, everyone. Arthur Kamens, Rombaut Avenue, Ward 2. People keep talking about using the word crisis. I've been trying to think of a word instead of that, because I think what we're facing is beyond a crisis. I don't know, I can't quite think of the synonym I'm looking for. I don't know, maybe even it's cataclysmic, and I think in two ways. One, as everyone has said, is about affordability, and the crisis of affordability is destroying families and destroying our community. And that destruction cuts across demographics. It's not just the poorest folks in our community, but it's folks who make a decent living. I moved here in the end of 2016 in retirement. I've got an okay retirement income, but I just get by. And there's no way I could possibly move here now. And that's happening to people across our community. The second crisis is one of democracy, and of people losing faith in their ability to influence the conditions that affect their lives and the ability of government to do something about it. And that is creating, I don't know, an unprecedented crisis in our country, cataclysmic crisis in our country, that is looking to destroy our democracy and thereby destroying the people that live in it. And so I am calling on you to respond to that. People want to hear that their government will do something about the conditions that they are facing. And I'm calling upon you to do that. And I want to emphasize what other folks have said. We need someone with expertise, a commitment to, and the ability and the knowledge and understanding to address the affordability issue and the crisis in democracy issues that we face. And it requires a full-time job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Michael Fox. Michael Fox, come on up.
Michael Fox, Ward 4. I'm adding my voice to the dedicated Housing Director Solutions initiative that's being discussed. I moved here in 2018, and I bought a wreck of a house for $150,000. And I put a lot of money into that, and so I have to admit that I'm part of a wave that has crashed over Beacon, and that continues to move this city that I moved to towards a gentrification that is not the reason that I moved here. I saw in Beacon a diverse, racially, economically, city that supported artists, that had all the walks of life that make a community, and that fosters democracy. if we become, over time, a kind of outer borough Scarsdale, that is not the community that I want and that I thought I was joining. I think that the council undoubtedly feels that it has worked on affordable housing over these decades, and I commend those efforts. It's not simple, it's not easy. Gentrification is what happens of its own momentum when a city like Beacon is discovered, and that discovery kind of piles up. But it requires good governance and intervention, and what we're advocating for in a dedicated director has worked in other cities, and we have local examples. And it would be the next step that this council
15
could
seconds.
take to support your own history of working on affordable housing and to further it and take it to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ashley Bards Lopez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Bonds-Lipte, and I live in Beacon, Ward 2. I'm here, like others, to urge the city to fund a full-time Director of Housing Solutions, separate from any existing position. Beacon is in a housing affordability crisis, as we've been talking about tonight. We need someone with the expertise to navigate policy and zoning, secure grants for affordable housing, and support tenants facing rising rents or eviction. We need action to keep Beacon a place where working families, seniors, and longtime residents can stay, and we need that leadership now. My family and I moved to Beacon in 2021. In that short amount of time, I've read that the demographic for Black and brown families has gone down from the time we moved here. I feel fortunate to live in Beacon, but I have many close friends who have had to pick up their lives and move elsewhere because high rents have forced them out of our community. There are Beacon residents who are hurting from this housing affordability crisis and do not have the privilege to attend city council meetings to let their voices be heard. So I'm proud to speak on their behalf. I appreciate the time and the dedication each of you brings to your role and understand that you're already stretched thin. That's exactly why the Director of Housing Solutions must be a full-time position, not an add-on to someone's existing responsibilities. Housing is too urgent and complex to manage on a part-time basis. Other cities, as others mentioned tonight, Kingston and Hudson, have dedicated housing directors who are making real progress, and Beacon needs its own tailored approach. That could mean focusing on grant writing, zoning reform, tenant support, or short-term rental enforcement, whatever best meets our local needs. This role will not duplicate county services, and experts across the region agree it would be beneficial to Beacon. It's time to stop delaying. We know the housing crisis is real, and we need to invest real capacity to solve it. I urge the council to take meaningful action by budgeting for a full-time Director of Housing Solutions in 2026, helping make Beacon a place where everyone can afford to live. And I also support the biking plan for Beacon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the public audience want to make a comment? Go ahead. Doesn't matter.
Thank you. Teresa Kraft. I support my fellow residents of this great city. Speaking as a concerned resident, I can't tell you how many times I stand on the streets of Beacon talking to people about its rich history and our connection to the founding of this great nation. I've been promoting Beacon's history even before I moved here in 1977. Most visitors want to know which museum they can visit to learn about Beacon's past, but unfortunately the answer is none. There are a few private nonprofit entities, such as the Madam Brett Homestead and the Beacon Historic Society, but both have minimal hours. There is no dedicated space for our locals to explore our history. How do we teach our children, our educators, and the tourists from around the world who wish to learn about our heritage? We need to share firsthand the important history of our twin villages, which became our beacon, along with the rich history of the Hudson Valley. This should be done through a physical museum rather than just scrolling through a website. The only king we are facing in the city of Beacon is this King's Way, because it's his highway, his way or the highway. There actually was a King's Highway, a 1,300-mile road laid from 1650 to 1735 from Boston to Charleston, South Carolina, eventually traversing parts of Route 9 that most Beacon residents travel daily. Last week, we watched the dual workshop with the board and the planning board. A few participants asked how to bring the community and its younger generation into a conversation about what lies ahead for Beacon's growth. This is the rewriting of the comprehensive plan. Follow that format. It should already be in the public forum and finished by 2027, yet it was hardly mentioned at the dual workshop, but with a whisper, the rewriting of the comprehensive plan is being seriously neglected as a public forum. It was only at the 4-minute mark before the meeting ended that the word even came to the table before it was quickly swept under it. The city is facing a significant threat to both its environmental and economy if the proposed train construction proceeds as planned. The new T districts, with the forthcoming development of the train and transition zones, do not align with the character of this city. I heard Adam Bosch from the Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress emphasize the importance of this message, but it seemed that our interpretations of what he said were quite different. I understood Adam to say that the city of Beacon should avoid making too many changes that could jeopardize what we've already done. Once we overbuild, there's no turning back. With that in mind, I urge everyone to help save the historic telephone building from overdevelopment. I encourage every board member and resident to watch Fishkill's most recent planning board meeting, as it is highly relevant to the city of Beacon and its residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ma'am?
Hi, Meg Lazarus, Ward 1. I came here tonight on behalf of Beacon Bicycle Coalition to support our efforts for a master plan, which, as you all know by now, I feel really strongly about. But since you've heard me speak on that issue so much, I'm feeling inspired to speak about the housing issues that others have brought up tonight. The issue of safe biking and affordable housing are related too. They both help create a more equitable city to live in. Clearly, there's a huge housing problem here. Beacon is not an affordable city, and I don't think anyone here can say otherwise. If there were political will around this issue, I think this issue would get a lot more care and attention, the attention that it deserves. So I think we as residents have to ask ourselves, why is there not political will for this issue? And from what I've heard, the city has thrown around the idea of creating a committee to look into the issue of housing. I will say, from my perspective as a resident, the city has made a lot of committees that take a look at different issues, and those committees do great work. They create extensive recommendations, the committee then disbands, and then those recommendations seem to sit in a PDF with no clear way forward for how those recommendations can move forward and how they can be implemented. I don't think we need a committee to understand this issue. We need a housing director now and bike lanes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the physical audience? Come on up.
Hi, excuse me. I'm Jackie Sawyer. I'm a resident of Ward 1. And I'm here, like so many, to urge the City Council to include funding in the 2026 budget for a Director of Housing Solutions, someone with experience and expertise to help Beacon meet its housing challenges head on, day one. As we've all discussed, Beacon's in a housing crisis. This feels earmarked by rents rising faster than incomes are rising, home prices are surging, and too many residents are struggling to find and keep their stable housing. I've lived in Beacon since 2020. Before buying my home, I rented 3 different places here and had to move out of all 3 for reasons that were beyond my control. I know this can happen in any rental market, but what made Beacon uniquely challenging was how few affordable options there were. I know firsthand how hard it can be to find a place to live at a cost I can afford with pressure-filled tight timelines, and I know that I'm not alone in this experience. I worked for over 10 years at a nonprofit affordable housing developer in New York City, leading their data and compliance work. Through that, I learned that creating and preserving affordable housing takes constant creativity and vigilance. You have to spot opportunities that others are going to miss, which could be an underutilized property, a new funding source, or a zoning change that can help you unlock new units. But finding this opportunity is only half of the battle. You need someone to hold developers accountable. When they commit to building affordable units, you need to make sure that they do. You need to monitor the affordability periods and make sure that those units don't quietly convert to market rate once those periods expire. And you need to make sure that you're connecting the people who are seeking housing with those opportunities. This is proactive and very detail-oriented work that requires real focus and expertise. The work is so expansive, as has been discussed, and the stakes are so high for housing that anything less than it can't be anything less than someone's primary responsibility. So cities like Kingston and Hudson, as many have spoken about, they're really inspiring to us. They've shown what's possible when a city really invests in having dedicated housing expertise. Their housing directors helped win millions of dollars in grants. They've been able to create hundreds of affordable units, and they protect tenants from losing their homes. This is all by having someone focus full-time on connecting funding, policy, and people. Beacon faces its own challenges that are different from those cities. We have this rapid growth, we have a very limited rental stock, and increasing demand from commuters who are seeking more affordability. We need someone who can build strategies that fit Beacon's reality.
15 seconds.
By pursuing grants, strengthening enforcement of our short-term rental law and good cause eviction laws, and working with Dutchess County programs to find ways to expand and, more importantly, preserve affordable housing. So bringing this kind of skill set to Beacon sets us up for long.
Your time has elapsed.
Thank you very
so
much. All right. Anybody else? Come on up. Thank you.
Andrea Bauer-Williams, Ward 1. I'm going to be very brief. We've heard from several of our fellow Beaconites today with extensive details about the housing coordinator that is desperately needed by the city. I also want the city to allocate funds in the next budget for a full-time director of housing solutions separate from an existing position. Someone also who hopefully will have a very objective view on our city's needs, who may have few or relatively few relationships already in progress, no frenemies, someone that could be objective to really help both citizens who are owners and renters. I've been fortunate to live here for over 20 years, but I have many friends and neighbors and their adult children who can no longer afford to live in Beacon. As one of the people who co-produced the film called Lines of Demarcation, where we interviewed several long-term Beacon residents along with students, one of the common threads in our production was the necessity for Beacon to keep the economic, cultural, racial diversity that makes our city very unique. As someone mentioned, we don't want to be another Scarsdale, no offense to Scarsdale, but we like having that vibe that makes people want to come here. They come here bypassing all of those communities because it means something. They feel the vibe of the city, and that's because of the diverse groups that we have, whether they're artists, whether they're service workers, whether they're community activist leaders, just people talking to each other, not with their nose in the air. That's why people come to Beacon. That's why people want to stay in Beacon. I realize it's a small footprint, but with some really creative innovations and funding sources from a full-time housing coordinator, I think we can get things done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Ben, anyone online?
If you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment this evening, please use the raise hand option at the bottom of your screen. If you're joining by phone, you'll need to press *9. Lastly, if you're joining us on the YouTube stream, you'll need to navigate to our website instead by going to beaconny.gov and looking for the link on our community calendar. As of now, Mayor, we do have 3 hands raised. First is Eve. Eve, you have permission to speak whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I know I spoke at the last meeting, and I'll try and be brief. I'm happy to follow Andrea. I was very fortunate that I was asked to be a film consultant on the documentary that she co-produced and is leading a tremendous outreach campaign on, Lines of Demarcation. That's where I was incredibly privileged to be able to sit and witness the stories of senior Black residents. Many have lived here their entire lives. They spoke about how friends of theirs have already had to leave Beacon because it's too expensive here. They're concerned they might have to leave, and they express sadness that their children and grandchildren will very likely not be able to set roots here because home prices and rentals are out of reach. This is not okay. Many of these people have been here their entire lives and made the city the very special place it is. It's long past time for the city to step up and take meaningful, proactive steps to address this problem. I have two friends, one who's been here 10 years, who raised her son here, another, a single woman graphic designer who's rented her current apartment for 4 years. They're getting kicked out because their landlords are selling the properties, and they're so stressed out searching for housing. I would be incredibly stressed as well. I learned in 2023, the average rent for a market rate 1-bedroom here in Beacon was $3,135 a month, higher than anywhere else in the county, and that's stats from the 2023 Dutchess County Rental Housing Survey. And as I mentioned last time I spoke, when I was listening to the Beaconites podcast with the teachers who were in the union, and they talked about how public school teachers cannot afford to live here on their salaries, and they're working to raise salaries. Well, we need to work harder to make housing affordable to our public school teachers. So it's long past time for the city to step up. I want the city to listen to its constituents and budget for a full-time director of housing solutions. It's a very complex issue. It requires a person with deep expertise in policy. You need someone who can dedicate their full time and attention to it, who have deep experience with grant writing. The scope of the job is just too big. So no matter how smart and talented this person is, we need, in the city, we also need someone who can just be an expert and dedicated to this job. And I think we can make great strides. And I know the community in Beacon would just be like so happy to have this addressed in a meaningful way. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next Zoom speaker will be Andrea. Andrea, you have permission to speak whenever you're ready.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, tell us your name and sort of where you live. Andrea.
Oops, one moment.
Yep.
Andrea, you have permission to speak again. Sorry about that.
Sure. Hi, I'm Andrea Moed. I live in Beacon, Ward 4, and I'm a member of Beacon Climate Action Now. And like many others here, I'm here to support bringing on a full-time director of housing solutions for Beacon. This solution, or this position, is so needed, and while I don't go to every council meeting, I honestly don't understand why this would be controversial. I've lived in Beacon for just over 2 years, and even in that brief time, I've met longtime residents, families, and working folks whose housing is precarious and that is deeply impacting their lives, and people who've had to leave town due to high rents. And I very much want to believe in the efficacy of my city government to take this difficult problem on and just do more to keep non-rich people in their homes. And I appreciate how many of you have demonstrated that you care about this too. But this work requires somebody with the technical expertise to navigate federal, state, and local policy, zoning, grant writing, tenant support, and advocacy. I don't think this is a set of responsibilities that can successfully be tacked on to an existing city job. And as others have mentioned, other cities in the region have benefited from a full-time person working on housing affordability. This is not to say that the job in Beacon would be exactly the same as it is in Kingston or Hudson, But I would urge you to speak with those housing directors in those cities to get a sense of what a director here in Beacon could achieve. Large numbers of Beaconites have said over and over again that housing has become unaffordable for most of us. I don't think that we need another task force or more research. We need an expert person working in city government addressing this urgent need. And in addition, I want to add my support to what earlier speakers have said about developing a bicycle master plan for Beacon. My family loves riding our bikes here, and we urge you to take action to make it safer and easier for more people. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, we have one last speaker on Zoom at this time, and that's Danielle. Danielle, you have permission to speak whenever you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Hi, my name is Danielle. I moved to Beacon in 2022, and I actually live in Fishkill now because I was priced out of Beacon. Ooh, I'm nervous speaking in front of everybody. So yeah, I just wanted to throw my voice around or behind everyone else who has been talking tonight about this Director of Housing Solutions. They've certainly convinced me that this would help make Beacon more affordable. Earlier this year, I was looking for new apartments, and I will say that all I was finding were things in those new fancy high-rises where the rent is $3,000 and up, and I could not afford that. And so I would like to have other options, right? And one day I would like to move back into Beacon proper. I lived a few blocks away from Main Street for 2 years, and it was really amazing, and I just can't afford to do that anymore with prices the way they are now. The other anecdote I wanted to share is that I know part of what drew me to Beacon is that it's a community of artists. And last year I went to Newburgh Open Studios and was shocked to hear that at least half the artists said they used to live and have studios in Beacon and they were priced out. So it feels like Beacon is losing part of the thing that drew everybody here, and that it's because everything is unaffordable, including housing. And so yeah, it sounds like putting a budget behind this and calling in an expert would be a great way to begin remedying this problem. And I think that's everything I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Ben, wrap it up.
No further speakers on Zoom at the time being.
All right. So thank you all. We really appreciate all your commentary, and we're listening very carefully. Public hearings. So the only public hearing here was for a change in zoning of the R1 zoning district. I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn that hearing to November 3rd.
Motion.
Second.
So Molly and Pam, all in favor to...
Before we vote on it, can you, just what I sent over email that clarify that we're expected to get the information that we need to actually hold the hearing on November 3rd in advance of that meeting?
So the planning board, after the joint session on Wednesday, they discussed the R15, and they concluded their discussion and review, but unfortunately between Wednesday evening and Friday afternoon, there wasn't enough time for the planning board to finalize its comment letter. That'll be available to the council as part of its next agenda packet, so that way the council and the public can both have the benefit of that response letter.
Great, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you both. Anything else on this topic before we make a motion to adjourn it to November 3rd? Okay. All in favor of adjourning the R15 zoning hearing to November 3rd, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I heard Jeff. Thank you. Okay. Let's do reports. I won't start first with Jeff. We'll go to Jeff last. Can we start with,
Sure.
Can you do that, George?
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to thank all of the organizers and volunteers of this past march on Saturday. It was peaceful, organized, and very inspiring. It gave me great hope for our democracy. So thank you all for all you've done, and the first responders for being there and helping to organize it as well. And just a reminder that another parade is this Saturday. It's the Hocus Pocus Parade, and that starts at 2:30. So please show up for that. That'll be fun. And finally, I'd just like to thank everyone that spoke tonight. We take these issues very seriously, and we, as the mayor said, we hear you. Thank you.
Thanks, George.
I don't have much to say, but I just wanted to remind everybody that this Saturday starts early voting. The closest early voting location is the Fishkill Town Hall, and early voting will go through Sunday, November 2nd, and then, of course, Election Day on Tuesday, November 4th. I also wanted to thank the Planning Board and the coordination to get our joint meeting happening last Wednesday. I'm hoping that that communication will continue in the future. I thought it was very helpful for both the City Council and for the Planning Board, so hopefully that opened up some channels of better communication. And with everybody speaking tonight, I know at our last workshop, we had talked about the new position of the deputy city administrator, and I'm wondering, I know they were talking about the job description would be there, and it had included some kind of the housing, and if that can, when we can we expect that? And then also just kind of an update with that discussion too of what is going to happen with the needs of the mayor's assistant.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Great. Amber?
All right. I'll put in a plug for a future workshop topic. It may make sense to wait until 2026 when the new council arrives, just to do some groundwork and advanced planning for comprehensive plan, and also to pick up the topic of the bike and pedestrian master plan. I think we've talked a lot about that. I would like to see us think through what it would take, what kind of resources we have from the county. I know Chris mentioned that last week. Just kind of consolidate a lot of the work that's been done and then figure out where the gaps are. And there's two events that I want to mention for the public. One is a drug take-back day. It is on Saturday, October 25th. It is in Hopewell Junction from 10 to 2 at the East Fishkill Fire Training Facility. This is put on by Cape of Dutchess County. They accept prescription meds, pet medication, patches, ointments, over-the-counter medication. It's important to hand these in properly so that they don't end up in our water system or in the hands of somebody that they might harm. And the second thing I wanted to point out was that the Beacon Pollinator Group has a community meeting on October 22nd. That's Wednesday. It's 7 p.m. at the Rec Center, and they will be talking about Japanese knotweed, which is an invasive plant and requires kind of specific care to remove so that it doesn't come back bigger and worse than ever. So this should be a really informative session, and I hope that folks can make it, and that's all from me.
Thanks, Amber. Like others have said, I want to thank all the speakers who came today and appreciate their thoughts and making sure that we're kind of taking in their experiences as we kind of figure out the path forward for the city. To build off what Amber said, I know that, Chris, you kind of shared the great news about a potential pedestrian study that will be coming our way that the county is going to play a role in, and just kind of wanting to learn more about if that could include bikes, what that would do to the cost, kind of as you think. As Amber said, this might be something that needs to wait until the new year when I'm no longer individually sitting on council, but I trust that our new council can continue to move this work forward with your guidance. I want to call out, as one of our other commentators said, that even if we don't have a museum specifically dedicated, our Beacon Historical Society has worked with the Dutchess Rev 250 program to put together this great map of American Revolutionary War sites. You can pick up your own copy of this at the Beacon Historical Society, and I'll just, for the sake of those who are watching, it has some great, just like little blurbs about various sites, both here in Beacon and around.
The artwork is really cute too.
Yeah, it's designed to be friendly, so if you want to do it with a family as well, you kind of can learn some things. And there's a map too that kind of shows where the actual sites are around here. Some of them might be a little less accessible than others, but still the general idea I think is really great, and I really applaud the Beacon Historical Society for continuing to find new ways to move this forward. I was also told there's a children's book that might be coming out before the end of this year. That's their hope. That hasn't hasn't been confirmed. And lastly, I wanted to just plug that I have office hours coming up this coming Friday, October 24th from 4 to 6 p.m. Looking at the weather, I think I won't try to sit outside for 2 hours, but I will be in Bank Square Coffee House. For those who want to join, or if that doesn't work for you, you can feel free to reach out to me and we can find another time to connect. And I'll pass it to you, Jeff, online.
Thanks so much, Molly. A few things. I just want to thank the organizers of the Soon Is Now Festival that took place this past Sunday. It was a fantastic event that was focused on arts addressing the climate challenge that we're all experiencing. It's a annual event, and I just want to give them praise for putting something together that was really meaningful and impactful, and encourage this to keep on happening and for people to attend. Nice symbiotic relationship, I think, with the Pumpkin Festival that took place over at Pete and Toshi Park. The other thing, I'm glad, Pam, that you brought up about the job description. I think that's fantastic that that's in the works. We're really looking forward to seeing the details about what would be in that job description so we can understand what our needs are and where the gaps are, if they exist. And lastly, I'll just suggest another workshop topic. I'm working on the report from the second iteration of the survey that's available on the Beacon City Council website. We had more than 170 respondents to that survey. It's still up, but I'm going to close it and suggest that we have a conversation around the another iteration, another version of that survey. There's about 10 questions that are on there, so it's very user-friendly in terms of time requirements. The responses are just amazing that people put so much time and thought into them. There are a variety of issues that are identified and solutions that people recommend. You might recall that the second iteration was focused on communication strategies. It's encouraging that what people want and prioritize are being addressed to a degree by us. Chris mentioned last time that there's a newsletter that's in the works and will be coming out. I know that there's information now that's up on the website, so there's improvements on the city website. But there are other strategies that we'll draw out that are requested by people in terms of what sources they have, what they like, and what they're looking for in terms of improved communications within and amongst the city members. So that's, again, a suggestion that we can, I'll share the report with council members, and I suggest that it would be very fruitful for me. You can give me comment one-to-one, but I also would recommend a conversation on that topic so that we can continue to give another avenue for people to share their thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, council. I'll only add a couple of things because most people mentioned both the events that happened on the waterfront and Kings on Main Street. I just want to thank all the people who attended, who did so very peaceably, and also the police who helped support all the events. I just want to thank the planning board. I always thank the planning board whenever we talk about them, just because they're the other sort of frontline committee in the city. I appreciated the time that we spent together, and I thought we identified some reasonable next steps for us to pursue. I'm just pleased that the bike study is being proposed. For those who remember the time I rode out with the bike group over to Industrial Arts Brewery, someone suggested, wouldn't a comprehensive study on bikes be appropriate? It actually was a guy named Sergey, and to which I said, absolutely. So I think that is the appropriate next step. In terms of funding, we had to choose. We chose pedestrian, which I think makes a ton of sense. But let's talk about how we can work other stuff into the plans. I think that's all I got. Other than that, Chris?
Some of you know we've been paving, starting the next round of paving. So today, 3 streets were milled in preparation for that next week: West Main Street, River Street, and Cliff Street. Tomorrow we'll be milling Beacon Street, South Brett Street from Roundabout Avenue to DeWint, South Walnut Street, and South Elm Street from Beacon Street to Main Street. And then on Wednesday, weather permitting, we'll be doing Iris Circle and Jordan Road off of Walcott Avenue. Then we'll be going back next Monday through Thursday, October 27th through October 30th, to repave those streets. And that will finish our regular milling for the year and paving. We still will be hopefully milling and paving the rest of Fishkill Avenue if we can get through the sewer project. And that really is dependent on how much rock we hit as we go through that project. On Fishkill Avenue, I reported last week that the temporary striping was in for the crosswalks. The permanent striping and the speed humps that protect those on either side of the entry to that box, that area, should be installed by the end of October, and I'm hoping that they're actually installed this week. But we don't have a drop-dead date. And the sidewalk extension in front of Family Dollar and the AutoZone are starting to be poured tomorrow, so that's moving along as well. And again, we do hope to have everything done on Fishkill so we can go back and resurface that. I know that's probably more patch than road at this point. And I'm sorry for that condition, but we're trying to get to the end. Poor Pam has to drive it every day. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Cool. Let's go on to local laws and resolutions. Is that all right?
Yes.
So the first one is an appointment. It's appointing Aiden Harrison to Highway Department laborer. Can I get a motion and a second to do so?
Motion.
Second.
So Amber and Molly. Chris, would you add anything?
Just that we talked about this last week. We have a budgeted laborer position. The person has gone out on disability, and we are looking to backfill that. Aiden Harrison was a seasonal worker for us for 2 years, had a lot of experience mowing, trimming, doing some paving. So we'd like to hire him after going through and doing a number of interviews.
All right. Any comments or questions?
No.
Obviously, we discussed in workshop. So all in favor of appointing Aiden Harrison to Highway Department laborer, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, the next three, Christian, will you talk us through these? So the first one, I'll get a motion in a second on certifying base percentages and base proportions for the 2025 assessment to be used for the 2026 budget.
Motion.
So Molly, and I'll second. I'll second that one, if that's okay.
All right.
I'm told I can. But Christian, will you tell us what the heck a base percentage and base proportions are?
Yes.
I know it never, fully explains anything, but give us a try. And
Thank
help
you,
the public.
Mayor. So this is one of the annual resolutions that the city council has to do. These base proportions stem from the reassessment that the city undertook back in the 70s. This is essentially updating and keeping the proportions of taxable revenue from homestead, which is residential, and non-homestead, which is commercial, and making sure that they are increased in line with numbers set forth by New York State that have also been reviewed and prepared with the city assessor. And so these numbers have already been verified. The council is required to approve them, and essentially this is one of the methods to try and make taxation of residential and commercial properties fair.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing I would add is the tax rate for commercial properties, that's that non-homestead, is 30 to 50% higher than the tax rate on homes. And we don't set that. That gets determined by these base proportions. But the general difference between the two was set back in the 70s or 80s. Yes. When this law went into effect and we adopted this system of having two different rates. There are about 40 to 50 jurisdictions in the state that use this homestead and non-homestead. And then there's also Nassau County and New York City that have multiple classes. New York has 4. But we're one of those that have 2. There are several around us that do. The school district does, and the town of Fishkill does. And I believe Wappingers does, so that the entire school district has 2 rates as well, right? Because those are the communities that are in the school district. That's all I would add. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments on what those base percentage and proportions are?
Not so much on the details of the proportions.
Oh, come on.
I just wanted to confirm that this, even though it's our 2025 assessment, this will kind of play out in the taxes that people will start paying in next year in 2026. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Great.
Yeah, the calculations that you saw in the budget use the base proportions that we're now approving, right? Mm-hmm. And the effect on a single-family home of about $500,000 last year, increasing to the average rate of increase for single-family homes would bear an additional tax in our budget of $70. A tiny portion of that goes away because the base proportions favored residential this year. Okay? I did okay, right, Christian? Yeah. This is an area I know okay. All right, any other comments? So all in favor of certifying our base percentages and proportions so that we can do the 2026 budget, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, the third one is just setting a public hearing on the 2026 proposed budget. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
So Molly and George, Christian, would you add anything?
Yeah, yes, sir. So the city council charter, the charter requires the city council to hold a public hearing before it adopts the budget. This is the mayor's budget. After that public hearing, the council does have the ability to vote on any amendments to the budget. The budget under the city charter is required to be adopted before the end of the year. If it is not, the mayor's budget is, by operation of law, automatically adopted. And so the public hearing will be scheduled for November 3rd. At that time, members of the public can come out and give their opinions.
Okay. Comments from council in terms of setting the public hearing? All right, and the date for the public hearing is November 3rd?
November 3rd.
Yeah. All right.
Can we just remind her the next step? So I think at our next workshop, we're going to have the remaining departments. Is that right, Chris? Water and...
You're going to have presentations from highway, water, and sewer.
Okay.
Yeah, and Susan will be back in case there are related questions to those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so all in favor of setting a public hearing for the 2026 budget on November 3rd, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I heard Jeff there. All right, fourth item is adopting a local law. It is concerning a partial property tax exemption for ADUs. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
All right, so that was Amber and Molly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Christian, would you tell us a little bit about this? This is a law we're adopting tonight.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this law is up for the council's vote. This law would provide a partial real property tax exemption for newly constructed ADUs in the city. It would be 100% exemption for the very first year, and then that exemption decreases for the next 8 years. It is also capped at $80,000, so any value of created out of a new accessory apartment would be capped at that value, so it can't go beyond that. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And this is also part of the city's pro-housing initiative, and it was asked of the city by the state to adopt it.
Okay.
And just for those who are tuning in who don't know what an ADU is, it's an accessory dwelling unit, which is a secondary unit to a primary residence. And we use the term accessory apartment in our code, but they're essentially the same.
Yes.
And we might want to update that at some point.
Yeah,
It
and
is
so this
confusing.
is also a part of the recent accessory apartment / ADU law that the council adopted earlier this year. It's kind of this package, and this is the next step in that.
Right, yeah, and I'll just add a couple of things. So let me just do an example. So let's say I have a home that is assessed and worth $300,000, and I do an accessory apartment, and let's say I spend $100,000 on it. I'm sorry, I spend some money on it. The assessor determines that the increase in value of the home goes from $300,000 to $400,000. That's the increased assessed value. I think what you said was the first $80,000 would be exempt the first year.
Yes.
Right? Not the full amount of the increased in assessed value from the ADU.
Yeah, so then their assessment would be $320,000 for that year, because that $20,000 would not be exempt.
Right.
They would receive that full exemption on the $80,000, and then it slowly, every year for the next 8 years, that exemption amount would decrease. So only 100% up to $80,000 in the very first year, and that's after a certificate of occupancy is
Right,
issued.
so assuming that the underlying value of the home didn't change at all, the next year, the first year would be $320,000, the second year $330,000, the third year $340,000, because it's taking 8 years to get back the $80,000 that was deducted the first year.
Yes, I think that it would be reduced in a slightly different manner. I
That's
believe it's 12.5% per year, so the first year would be...
No, that's the right number.
Yeah.
I picked the right number, right? Okay, good. I just wanted to use as an example because I thought it would be instructive. The other thing is, we heard some comments about, why does this also require an exemption? I think that's a fair statement because there are other benefits for having an accessory unit. Obviously, as a homeowner, you're deciding you're willing to live very close to someone, but you're making money to doing it. But part of it, as Chris mentioned, was it was part of the package that was requested. Oh, actually, that you mentioned that the state requested of us. Yep. And I think that's a fair one. It also has minimal impact. We don't think that there's a lot of units that will convert in terms of our total tax base. So.
And this, for those that are already accessory dwelling units, it does not apply to them, correct?
Yeah, and that is set under the state enabling law. The council doesn't have the ability to change that. In adopting this partial property tax exemption, the enabling statute requires that it apply to new construction. Here, it would be after a certificate of occupancy is issued.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions on this?
No, I'll just add that, I appreciate that, yes, this is something where we are essentially, for a temporary period of time, sort of taking this away from being subject to property tax, but we do that because it is kind of in line both with the state's requirements for kind of the housing smart communities, but also with our own values to try to create more of these units, even though we don't expect that this will end up with a rash of new units being created as a result of this. But it's just one more tool to try to get it be more of a possibility for more of the residents of Beacon, where this might be something they're already interested in.
Okay. And Chris, did you have I'd heard a number as to the number of applicants we're getting on this?
Mayor, I think it was around 50.
Yeah, that's the number I'd heard. And we were getting like kind of one or two a year before this?
No, I'm sorry. I'm speaking about the applications for the ADU 1+ program.
Yes, sorry.
And are you asking about accessory apartment applications, or are you asking about the 1+ program?
Fair statement. So we're getting that many applications about the 1+ program.
So we're not getting the applications. Hudson River Valley is taking them, and I've heard they had at least 52 as of the last count. And so this program, again, the context for what the mayor is talking about is that we went in with other municipalities in Dutchess County along with Hudson River Housing to get a $6 million grant that can help facilitate the development of ADUs by providing a grant of up to $125,000 per unit for eligible homeowners. And they have to do an application for that and go through several rounds of eligibility screening. And we understand that's taking place now. It got a slow start. The reason we're doing this law is one of the commitments we made in going into that program was that we would give this to give an extra edge to allowing these to move forward.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions? All right, so all in favor of adopting this local law offering a partial property tax exemption for accessory apartments, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Very good, thank you. All right, so the last resolution it concerns amendments to the 2025 budget. There's two of them. Can I get a motion and a second to adopt those?
Motion. Second.
Pam and Amber. And Chris, do you want to just review what those are for the public?
Sure. We reviewed these at workshop last week. These are two amendments to the 2025 adopted budget in the general fund. The first one is to move $240,000 from the regular salary line in the police budget to overtime for police and detectives. So the 240 would be broken up. 205 of that would go to the police and 35,000 to the detectives. And as we've mentioned, we've had staffing issues. This year we started 8 positions down out of a force of 36. We've been able to hire 5 this past year, which is really helping to mitigate this, but we're going to have overtime just to cover shifts for a while. The fortunate part of that is that it leaves money in the regular salary line. Right now, we look like we're going to net out to cover the costs of the overtime with the regular salaries that's left. So this is a shift that we believe will get us through the overtime through the end of the year. And we're continuing to try to hire. We have another transfer that's being interviewed right now, which always helps us because then we don't have to send them to the academy. The second proposed budget is to move $10,000 from our contingency fund to overtime in the finance department. This was to cover extra hours that have been needed to deal with the water meter upgrades. There's been a lot of work as we transfer over 4,600 accounts to the new meter system. We've gotten all of them changed over, but about 160 now. But there's a lot of work behind that, talking to people about getting those scheduled, dealing with the fines, which we've, waived when people do call in within the month. And so this moves $10,000 to cover that time.
All right, any comments, questions beyond what we did in workshop, or even not? All right, so all in favor of approving these two amendments to the 2025 budget, say aye.
Aye.
Jeff didn't hear you.
Aye.
Thank you so much. All right, so can I get a motion and a second to approve the minutes of October 6th?
Motion.
Second.
Molly and Amber, any changes, additions, subtractions, deletions?
I sent in my couple edits already.
All right.
Looks good.
I's to dot, T's to cross, periods to add. All right, all in favor of approving the minutes of October 6th, say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Jeff.
Aye.
All right, great, thank you. This is the second opportunity for public comments. If someone did not make a comment in the first one, would like to do so now, this is your chance to do so. All right. Ben, I assume there's no one online at this point?
Correct.
Okay. So let me just announce that the next workshop is on Monday, the 27th at 7 p.m. at this location, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
That's Pam and Amber, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much, and have a good night.
Recording